Today we're going to be talking about how the mind and body connection really plays a major role in how we are able to manage our stress, our anxiety, and our overwhelm. And I thought that this was such a tremendously big topic, especially that we're still at the very beginning of the year, that I thought that I would share some of my tips with you of how we can sort of reverse that crazy cycle of anxiety and we can get back in control and taking charge of our own lives. Do you ever feel like things are sort of out of control? You feel like it's a new year and you should be so pumped and you should be chasing after those big goals and your big audacious New Year's resolutions, and somehow at the end of it all, you kind of walk away feeling like, what did you get yourself into? And you really have no grasp of how things got so far down on the anxiety road and so far away from where you feel calm and balanced that you're sort of like, why did I start this in the first place? You want to sort of get back into like feeling more balanced and more calm and just more in control overall of your choices. So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed a lot of times, or you are struggling with anxiety, then this one is going to be for you. So just stay tuned and let's get started with the video. Well, first of all, let's just talk about the mind-body connection. Because I really feel like whenever people say things like that, it really just sounds like another buzzword. You know what I mean? Like, oh, just put some fat in your coffee and it'll be great. So the mind-body connection truly, to me, if I'm simplifying it, it really just speaks to understanding how the things and the experiences that happen to you and that you go through on a day-to-day basis, it really impacts how your body's feeling. And the things that you're thinking about will also have an impact on it will have a physical manifestation. And that's really all that is. So if we can learn to really tune into our bodies and really just pay attention to, at the very present moment, how our bodies are feeling, then we can sort of take that control back of how much our bodies excel or how much it deteriorates, basically. But then also, the other important aspect of it is that most of the time when people talk about mindset shifts, they're just talking about just the mind alone. So it goes back to that concept of isolation. Like, when people talk about exercise and then they just say, well, I only want to work on my abs and nothing else. Well, you can't just do that. When you're working out, you're working your entire body. You're not just working your abs. You might be doing exercises that are just specific to that muscle group, but even that muscle group is kind of connected to at least 2 or 3 different muscle groups, and it's connected to bones and ligaments and all of that good stuff. So it's never really just one single isolation that takes place. When people think in absolutes or in isolations, that I only want to change this one small element of my life, and then I only want to change this alone and nothing else. When in reality, once you change one thing, it will have a trickle effect on everything else. It's true in exercise, and it's also true in mindset shifts, and especially when we're talking about the mind and body connection. So understand that first, and then at that point, it's not going to be a big surprise when we're talking about making small little mindset shifts or doing things that will allow you to really tune in to how your body's feeling. Then that will have a profound effect on other areas of your life as well. So once we know that, then we can kind of move forward. So number one thing that you can absolutely do that will manage your anxiety today is, honestly, it sounds as simple as it does. It's one of the most difficult things to do. Breathe. And I don't just mean breathe like, yeah, you're just breathing. Of course you're breathing. It's a natural thing that you're doing because your body needs oxygen. I mean breathe. Connect to your diaphragm. Let me scooch back so you see. Connect to your diaphragm, just right under your ribs, and try to breathe right into your belly, okay? Try to connect back to your breath. And when I mean by connecting back to your breath, what I really mean is tune in to how your breathing is at this very moment, because chances are you're breathing extremely shallow, which means that your brain and your body is not getting enough oxygen, which also means that you're going to be more prone to anxiety because your body is not getting enough oxygenated blood. Tuning into how you're breathing will automatically allow you to take that control back of your breathing pattern. And the deeper that you breathe, the more you're sending signals to your parasympathetic nervous system that one, you're safe, and two, that you can go into a calmer state, which also means that it's going to impact your heart rate. It's going to impact the hormones that are going to be regulated in your body. It's going to be impacting your digestion. So if you're finding that you have digestive issues, this would be a perfect way for you to just start impacting your digestion pretty much immediately. So we always talk about deep diaphragmatic breathing in massage therapy, which is wonderful. However, I personally find that really just staying present and learning how to just tune into your breath and taking that control back of how you're actually manually breathing deeper is going to be the number one way to really just learn that in certain areas you can definitely control your physiology just by breath. And it's one of the easiest ways for us to really just connect to, how your nervous system is functioning just by managing your breath. Keep in mind that, the muscles that you have by your neck, the muscles that you have between your ribs, they are there. And the muscles that you have on your back are there to lift and depress your ribs as you're breathing, but they are not, I repeat, they are not your primary muscles for breathing. Your primary muscle for breathing is actually your diaphragm, and most people have no idea how to activate them. So if you need to learn how to activate your diaphragm, basically just take your hands and place them on your belly and try to really concentrate on allowing your belly to rise and fall and rise and fall. You don't have to take really deep breaths in order for you to do that, unless you have learned manually of how to really breathe deeper. Then you're going to have to learn to really not rely solely on the little accessory muscles that are there just as a helper. So like 95% of the time when people are feeling stressed and anxious, they're actually breathing extremely shallow, so their brain is not getting enough oxygen, and they're also exhausting the little muscles that are really just there as a helper, because they're ultimately not activating the main muscle that is there for your breathing. At first, you can just start with take a deep breath through your nose and exhale through the mouth. If you can get to a point where you're deeping through the nose and exhale through the nose, that will be even deeper. It's a process. It's definitely a learning curve. If you're able to do that, you're doing a tremendous service for your health. So that was number one. Number two, this will come as absolutely no surprise whatsoever, but I still felt the absolute need to mention this. Food. Fuel your body with foods that are really not going to be agitating for not only for your stomach, but also for your nervous system. Tune in again, and it's going to be general recommendation is going to be to avoid processed food and packaged foods and excessive amounts of sugar and things that will spike your blood sugars. And obviously, like things like GMOs and any of the additives that they add into foods. Natural is always going to be better. Whole foods are always going to be better. Foods that are going to be rich in antioxidants and in vitamins and minerals are always going to be a much better choice. But I kind of wanted to leave it as general as that, because honestly, the moment that we take that dive down into it should be the ketogenic diet, a paleogenic diet, a Whole30, or they're all going to be suitable for certain types of people. But for me to make a recommendation on food to say that it's only this diet or this diet that works better, it's not really realistic, because some people thrive on a vegan diet while others thrive on a ketogenic diet. It just honestly depends on your own personal anatomy and your own personal physiology. So the way that your body processes hormones might be slightly different than the way mine does. And just because you're female and I'm female does not mean that our bodies are going to be the same in processing carbs, the way that we're going to be taking on fats, or the way that we're going to be using fat as fuel. So I really don't like it when people sort of generalize things, because the more you learn about food and really understand how it biomechanically impacts you, the more you will really see how flawed that belief system really truly is. So all I will say is that, one, work with a professional if you need to see if there's any food sensitivities that you need to avoid. Obviously, the general recommendation is that if you're concerned about food sensitivities and you're finding that it's spiking your blood sugar, or it's spiking, or you go into rage or anger very easily after eating a heavy carbohydrate heavy meal, then maybe that might be something that you need to sort of fine tune, so that just really truly just learn to listen to your body and see sort of what type of fuels are you thriving on. And the best way that you can really learn that, honestly, is by looking at certain foods and see what excites you, see what sparks joy. And I'm not talking about chocolate cake. I'm talking about just, if you're looking at certain meals, everybody sort of has their favorite meal that just, you look at it and you find it extremely inspiring. Those are going to be the types of foods that you're naturally going to be gravitating towards, because there's a physical reaction that happens when you look at them. So that will be my number one tip when it comes to food. But honestly, the good chances are that you will probably going to be avoiding things like dairy or gluten if you are finding that you're sensitive. And just work with a professional if you're completely unsure, and really just do some testing and see one by one of certain food categories if you're finding that is it impacting your anxiety in a positive way, or is it impacting your anxiety in a negative way. For me personally, I know this sounds super general, but for me personally, I found that when I was eating a diet that was filled with meat, and I was eating a really carb dominant, like simple sugar dominant diet, I did not do well on that, because it really spiked me into rage. It really spiked me into, crazy blood sugar fluctuations. So I already know that that wasn't really the diet that was serving me to the best of its ability. Once I increased my protein intake, I added more dark leafy greens, and I reduced my meat consumption, and eventually I completely eliminated meat. All of those things allowed my blood sugar to be nice and steady, which means that I wasn't going into like that shaky hypoglycemic state. And I was also not spiking my own anxiety. I did not dip myself into that anxiety pool every single morning. So that's what I mean. Like, it's really such a personal process that just make sure that you're fine tuning it to your own best abilities. And if you're not sure how, then just start working with a professional, because that might be your next best step. Number 3, and that's my last tip for you, is awareness. Just be aware of the people around you, be aware of your environment, be aware of your internal environment. What are some of the thoughts that you have lurking on a continual basis? See if you can witness it, and see if you're able to witness it and catch it when it's really, a lot of the things that you're telling yourself doesn't hold a lot of truth, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to manage it in a healthy way. So it took me a little bit, especially when I started my own workout journey. I found that I had a lot of limiting beliefs about what my own personal abilities are. And I would tell myself a lot of things that were really not holding a lot of truth. They were really fear-based, and they were really based on my own personal conditioning as a child. And honestly, a lot of it is just either society, like it's society that tells me that, or it's my own internal insecurities that are really spiking high. Nevertheless, it was my internal crazy that was sort of going on overdrive, all based on fear. And the number one thing that I had to do before I could make changes to any of that is to witness it for what it was. I had to look at it for if that was a genuine concern that my mind was trying to keep me protected and safe, or was that just my own limiting belief that was just really going and spiraling out of control, and it didn't really hold a whole lot of truth. So if you're able to do that when you're really witnessing your thoughts for what they are and holding it up to reality, then I think that will serve you well when it comes to really just the more you witness your own limiting beliefs. Like, is it actually true, or is it just something that I'm telling myself to keep myself safe and to keep myself stuck where I'm at? With your environment, it's going to be one of those things where when you're looking at your environment and you're finding that it's fully not created in a way where it's actually supporting your personal goals, and it's driving you into anxiety because it just feels out of alignment. Like, if you thrive in a clean home and you're constantly surrounded by clutter, what does that tell you? It tells you that, putting things back to where they belong is not a priority at the moment because it's not a priority. But then it's also putting you into a state where you're really uneasy and you're really agitated very easily, and you really can dip into that anxiety pool very quickly. So just make sure that you're witnessing a lot of those little things, because they sound little, but honestly, if you're able to manage that environment a little bit better, it will serve you tenfold. And sometimes it just starts with really just having that level of awareness before you can make the changes. Because you can clean the house and you can eat the kale, but until you make that mindset shift that says that you're doing that because it will support your mental health, it's all of those habits are not going to stick, and then your house will become cluttered again, and you will be back into a tub of ice cream next week. I'm just saying. So these are all the three things that I really wanted to share with you. I hope that you find this helpful. I hope that you found this useful. If you did, you can give me a thumbs up. You know what to do. You can subscribe. You can hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. I usually share with you on this channel, we talk a little bit about mindset shifts, such as this one. We talk about, spiritual practices when we're working with moon rituals. We talk about eco living and how we can really create a lifestyle that fully supports us so that we can become more intentional and healthier along the way. So because we kind of go into a few different topics throughout the week, you may not know what's coming up when. I usually release a video every Tuesday, Thursday, and once on the weekend. So what I have done to help you out, to make your life a little bit easier, is I usually release a recap email every single Sunday to my email community, and I show you some of the best takeaways from each of my videos, and I show you the upcoming schedule for the following week. If you wanted to sign up for that, it's completely free, complimentary. You know what to do. Link is down in the description so you can take a look. This was one of the first in the series of anxiety management. I hope that you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below, what was your number one tip in managing your own stress and overwhelm? Because I would love to learn from you. I think that the more we can sort of come together as a community and support one another, the more we can learn and grow together. I hope that you have yourself a wonderful day, and just keep shining, and just know that you're way more powerful than you think. And I will see you again next time. Bye.